Welcome to today's webinar, a producer update on eID rollout in South Australia. My name's Jodie Reseigh-O'Brien and I'm one of the AWI Extension South Australia team. AWI is supported by Australian Wool Innovation, the South Australian Sheep Industry Fund, the Department of Primary Industry and Regions. If you'd like to know more about AWI Extension South Australia, you can go to our website, follow us on X or Twitter and Facebook. Today we have presentations from both Livestock SA and the Department of Primary Industries and Regions. And firstly, I'd like to introduce Pene Keynes from Livestock SA. Pene is Livestock SA's project manager, playing a vital role in projects dedicated to advancing our red meat and wool industries. With a background in sheep and cattle production, Pene takes pride in her contributions to industry goals, with the aim to strengthen farming businesses, but also mitigate some of the risks associated with farming. For over 4 years, Pene has overseen the Biosecurity Extension project, and she has also managed the Sheep and Goat Traceability Program, aimed at identifying and addressing the specific needs of South Australia for the implementation of eID in sheep and farmed goats. Welcome, Pene.
No worries. Thanks, Jodie. Thanks for having me here today, and thanks for everyone for taking time out of your day to join us to go through this pretty big change for our small stock industries here in South Australia and more broadly nationally. So I guess it's what I'm going to cover tonight is really about why is the sheep and goat traceability system changing, and a little bit about industry's perspective and how we got here. So it's probably a little while ago now, sort of May of 2022, these kinds of headlines were popping up based on outbreak of foot and mouth disease, and as well as lumpy skin disease in our closest neighbour in Indonesia. You would have seen this popping up all over. It was huge in the news cycle, and the risk was really causing a lot of industry concern, and rightly so. It's the closest it's been, and probably kicked industry out of complacency that we've been struggling with. Well, struggling was probably not the right word, but we'd gone into a bit of that complacent mode around these exotic disease outbreaks. So foot and mouth disease, I suppose for everyone, that's the big trade disease that it doesn't particularly damage or upset the health of, it's not fatal for the animal, that's what I'm trying to say. So the foot and mouth disease is more of a trade disease in that it will cost our industry dearly if this disease comes in based off the trade implications that this disease has. So this was when industry and government really got the motivator, the catalyst to really look at all of our plans in terms of what would happen if a foot and mouth disease outbreak did happen here in Australia, and what that would mean, and what preparedness have we got in place to be able to get through and survive a disease outbreak of any kind that would really cost our industries. Like $80 billion wiped off our industry over 10 years is a pretty big figure that we really needed to look at. Luckily, we didn't have a foot and mouth disease outbreak, although it was detected in Australia. That was just part of the everyday monitoring that happens. It was nothing to do with it coming into our flock or herd. So we were lucky. But it was because of the preparedness and planning that we put in place to be able to stop it. So during this time, one of the things that industry looked at was our traceability. So traceability is really key to how quickly we can get back into business and into trade and be able to demonstrate freedom from disease and really be able to maintain and sell our products. So Australia really relies on our international trade. We have over 75% of our red meat products and even more of our wool products are reliant on international buyers. So, as I said, these kinds of diseases will really, we really need to address it. So anything we can do for preparedness now, where we'll be able to move forward through these kinds of diseases. So one of the things in which a part of it all that we looked at was one of the moments that I was talking to one of my managers at the time and really looking, and we'd been looking at some of the national livestock identification data, and thinking what would happen if foot and mouth disease did actually come here. And I was significantly concerned about the traceability issues that we have with the visual mob-based system. One of the things that we probably weren't talking about was the fact that we set a standard national traceability performance standard that we promote to our international partners, and it sets the standard for what we need to be able to achieve and be able to trace animals for. We knew that with the current system, we were being able to achieve 70% traceability in 30 days. So that's well below the national traceability performance standards that we expect we can achieve. And really, we could see that with Victoria having already implemented eID for sheep, they were being able to achieve that 99.6% in that 30 days, which was more around, it was very much up to the national traceability performance standards that we want to achieve and be able to promote to our partners. But we weren't achieving. So this is where the electronic identification implementation or decision started. We were looking at how we can trace things, and it'll go through it in a video a bit later, but eID livestock can be traced with greater efficiency and accuracy than visual identification. It's faster, it can be traced. And the faster we can trace things, the greater the chance of controlling a disease outbreak and minimising its economic and social impact. So that was really important to us. One of the key decision maker for all of this was decision made by the Federal Minister for Agriculture, Murray Watt. He made the call in collaboration with his counterparts in the states, across the states and jurisdictions. So he made the call that Australia was going to roll out a national sheep and goat eID system. That was in 2022, and that's where we've got to now. So the decision's been made by government, and it's up to the state governments to be able to implement it, but also with the help of industry, because we're trying to, as an industry, get the best outcomes for our traceability, as well as the financial packages that we can get to be able to help implement this system. So I'll just quickly stop sharing for a second, and I'll get a video to play just to demonstrate the story of mob-based movements versus eID tracing.
Under the current national system, we track sheep and goats as mobs from property to property using property identification codes, PICs. Let's look at how we currently track our sheep and goats under our mob-based movement system. Meet Woolly. Woolly the sheep lives on River Run Farm with 630 others. Woolly is being moved to Wattle Downs Farm along with 400 other sheep. Wattle Downs Farm houses 1,300 sheep, including a few rams which the owner bought from a breeder. Sometime later, Wattle Downs decides to move a number of their sheep off the property. 60 sheep are sent to the abattoir, where 1,400 others have already been delivered. 75 sheep are sent to Shady Tree Farmstead, where there are already 575 head on property. 170 sheep are sent to a sale yard to be sold with 6,200 others. 500 sheep from that sale yard are moved to a feedlot, housing 8,000 more sheep. Finally, approximately 1,200 feedlot sheep are moved to an export depot, where there are already 21,000 sheep. But wait, where's Woolly? Just through Woolly's potential journey, we've come into contact with about 40,280 sheep. It's at this point we find out that the rams which were brought onto Wattle Downs farm where Woolly had been living were carrying a disease. Since we don't know where Woolly ended up, or even if she's still at Wattle Downs, we have to trace all movements of all sheep off Wattle Downs farm through all possible paths that the disease could have flowed through. We also learned that the same breeder which sold the rams to Wattle Downs sold to 26 other properties. We now have to multiply all of these traces by 26. That's 1,047,280 potentially exposed sheep and more than 130 pathways to follow. But let's just look at finding Woolly in this instance. If Woolly had been tagged with an eID tag with a unique electronic number, we would have been able to trace her and the others from Wattle Downs as individual sheep, rather than needing to follow all the potential pathways they could have travelled down and all the other sheep they could have come into contact with. Having individual eID allows us to find Woolly. The time to contain a disease is reliant on the rate of traceability available. As a component of the whole system, eID helps us to trace specific stock and know which others have been in contact with them, improving our rate of detection, containment and response.
Under the current
that video
system,
gives a good example of what it looks like for the whole system, and I know a lot of people haven't actually seen that video yet, so it's good to keep sharing it just to demonstrate the speed in which the improvements and efficiencies that can be created. That's just sort of leave that video there if you want to go back and revisit it or check in, but it really is the speed in which we can trace animals through the system that can improve our ability to overcome disease outbreaks. And we know that this is it. Yeah, on the foot and mouth disease side of things, we can absolutely see the impacts, but there's also more endemic diseases in South Australia that we can manage and do better with. There's quite a few examples where the ability to trace animals has really helped us to be able to resume trading quickly. But electronic identification, EID, is a tag that contains a microchip that can be read electronically in a fraction of a second by a producer who has a suitable reader, panel or handheld. And the benefits of that are moving from the visual tag approach for EID for sheep and farmed goats will improve the accuracy and efficiency of livestock traceability, as I've said. But changing will strengthen our biosecurity, improve market access, and reduce time required to manage an exotic outbreak. So really, it's about, with the visual-based system, reading tags visually is something that we know that producers aren't doing, especially in those non-vendor bred lines. If you were meeting your compliance, you would be looking at every single tag every time you sold them and seeing that every single tag matches the NVD, and that's just not happening. So it's going to be easier to do it with a tag, with an electronic. So that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Penny. It's my pleasure to introduce our second speaker this evening, Tara Vandeleur from Department of Primary Industries and Regions, where Tara works as one of the NIS officers. She's been working for PIRSA Biosecurity since 2006, specialising in livestock traceability and the National Livestock Identification System. In this role, Tara is involved in both NIS monitoring and compliance, as well as providing technical support and assistance to industry stakeholders regarding their NLAS obligations and the NIS database. Tara has been involved in South Australia's implementation of sheep and farmed goat EID since 2022, including sitting on the National Sheep and Goat Traceability Task Force. Tara lives just out of Tintinara in the upper southeast with her husband and 3 sons, where they run a mixed farming operation. At this time, I'll hand over to Tara. Thanks.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Penny has talked us through the background of sheep and goat EID, the national context, its benefits, and why it's so important from a traceability and market access perspective. From here, I'm going to run through the nuts and bolts of implementation here in South Australia, including implementation timelines, EID tags, funding and support, and producer responsibilities. So starting with the SA implementation timeline, the timeline in South Australia includes the commencement of mandatory eID tagging and the commencement of mandatory eID scanning and recording on the database. These two components work hand in hand to create the eID traceability system that we're implementing in Australia. So when you're looking at the timeline here, the first date is 1 Jan 2025. And from that date, all sheep and farm goats born on or after must be eID tagged before leaving the property of birth. That same date of 1 January next year, processors will begin eID scanning and recording animals that are moving through their facilities with an eID device. Property to property or P2P movements will also start being scanned and recorded on the database, again for those animals with an eID device. From 1 July next year, sale yards will begin eID scanning and recording, again for those animals that are moving into their facility with eID tags. And from 1 Jan 2027, all sheep and farm goats must be tagged with an eID device before leaving the property. So this timeline means that from 1 Jan 2025 to 1 Jan 2027, we'll be operating in a hybrid traceability system here in South Australia, whereby both the mob-based system and the eID system will be in place. From 1 Jan 2027, however, sheep and goat eID will be fully implemented and operational in South Australia. This means that all sheep and farm goats that are moving anywhere will have an eID tag, and all movements will be eID recorded on the database. So how are producers being supported? Well, in last year's state budget, the state government announced $9.3 million of state funds to help implementation of sheep and goat in eID in our state. The government support package will help the supply chain transition to mandatory sheep and goat eID through including both support for eID tags and support for essential eID scanning equipment. So firstly, we're just going to go through the support for eID tags. An agreement is in place with tag manufacturers to provide a 95% discount per NLS accredited eID tag at the point of sale. The discount applies to NLS accredited tags aligned to the year of birth colour system, being black eID tags for 2024, the discount available from 1 Jan of this year to 31st of December of this year, and white EID tags, for 2025, discount available from 1 Jan 2025 to the 30th of June 2025. eID tags purchased in 2023 were also eligible for a rebate, but applications closed for them in April of this year. The 2024 discounted eID tag should be targeted at animals that are being retained in the system post-2027. And this is to limit the need and the extra cost associated with double tagging older animals. And to date, South Australian producers have purchased over 2 million eID tags in this calendar year alone, so just to June of this year. Now, a little about eID tags themselves. eID tags have two numbers. Firstly, the electronic RFID number, which is on the inside chip, and this is the number that's scanned. The second is the visual NLS number printed on the outside of the tag, known as the NLS ID. Both numbers are linked together on the database, just like a car's number plate and a VIN number are linked. So in terms of the RFID number, which is again is the inside chip, it starts with a manufacturer's code and then has a long serial number following it. The NLS ID, however, being the one on the outside of the tag, starts with the PIC of the property that ordered the tag. It then has a manufacturer's code, it has a device type code, it has a year of manufacture code, and then a device serial number. Something important to note is that even though the year of manufacture code is printed on the tag, you're not locked into having to use them within that same year. Meaning that if you buy tags this year and you have some left over, you're still free to use those tags in any following year that you choose. A little more about eID tags. eID tags must be NLS accredited. NLS accredited tags have gone through a strict 3-year accreditation process, testing both retention and readability. Any issues should be reported to the tag manufacturer or integrity systems if you're having issues on those measures. Only NLS accredited tags will be uploaded to your PIC on the NLS database by the manufacturer and are therefore traceable through the system. Only the 8 colours in the year of birth system are NLS accredited. However, following the year colours in set sequence is voluntary in South Australia, as it is in all other states apart from Western Australia. Other colours such as brown and grey are not year of birth colours and are not NIS accredited, not registered to your PIC on the database, and have no traceability benefit. Correct tag application is critical for tag retention, so be mindful when tagging and try to follow tag manufacturers' application and placement recommendations. eID tags are also species specific, so you need to ensure that you order the right tags and you apply them to the correct species. eID tags are either breeder tags, which can be any colour in the year of birth rainbow, or post-breeder tags, which must be pink. In terms of lost tags, when an eID post-breeder tag will need to be applied to an animal that has moved onto your property, but it's lost its original eID breeder tag. So if a non-vendor bred animal has lost its eID tag on your property, then you can put a post-breeder tag in. A new eID breeder tag can be applied to an animal that was born on your property, like a vendor bred animal, and if that animal loses its original eID breeder device, and this can be any colour other than pink. In terms of alternative technologies, UHF or ultra high frequency tags are not NIS accredited and not linked to the NIS database. So UHF tags are not traceable in our current system. This technology, however, does show promise, but it's not yet been tested in full supply chain, commercial and Australian settings over long periods. So there is more research to be done in that space. I've got here just a list of all the accredited NIS eID devices that are available. Noting that some of these can be applied using the same applicator that you have for your visual tags, and other manufacturers have been known to give producers a new applicator when they buy a certain quantity of tags. So speak to your rural reseller about that. So from tags, we move into the responsibilities of scanning and recording sheep and goat movements on the NIS database. The first and important thing to point out is that the same parties are still responsible for recording the movement on the NIS database in the eID system as they were in the mob-based system. The only difference in the eID system and the animals are scanned and individual information is recorded compared to just visual information. But for a reminder, we're going to go through this schematic slowly so you're really clear about who is responsible for scanning and recording information on the database for the different types of movements. So firstly, the first blue dot on the left-hand side says buying eID tags. And this is just to remind you that when you order your tags, the tag manufacturer will record or upload those tags to your PIC on the database. So you do not have to scan those tags when you receive them. And you certainly don't need to scan those tags when you apply them to the ear of an animal at tagging or marking, for example. They're already recorded on your database. The second dot there, the orange dot, says buying at an online auction. So if you're buying at an online auction, such as Auctions Plus, for example, it's your responsibility, be the buyer of those animals, to scan and record those animals when they arrive on your property. If you're buying at an on-farm public auction, that might be an on-farm property ram sale or an on-property clearing sale or an on-property off-shears sale, for example, it's the stock agent's responsibility to scan and upload those devices to the database, so you don't have to do anything there. If you're moving sheep or farm goats to an agricultural show or an event or a field day, it's the show organiser's responsibility to scan and record those animals on the database, so you don't have to do that then. However, if you're moving animals to or from agistment, it's your responsibility, being the producer, to make sure that those animals are scanned and that movement is recorded on the database. If you're selling your animals direct to a processor or an abattoir, the processor or abattoir will scan and record those animals on the database. You don't need to do anything there. And similarly, if you're moving or selling animals through a sale yard or you're buying animals from a sale yard, the sale yard operator will scan and record those devices on the database. So again, you don't need to do anything there. However, when buying animals privately from another producer, even if you do have an agent involved, you, the receiver of those animals, must make sure those animals are scanned and recorded on the database. This includes when moving sheep or farm goats between properties that you own yourself. So if you have multiple properties with different PICs and you're moving sheep or goats between those properties, you need to make sure that those animals are scanned and that movement's recorded on the database. So just to sum that up, the change to eID will not change who is responsible for recording movement information on the database. However, there will be changes to the type of movement information that's recorded. You, being the producer, are responsible to scan and record animal movements in these following circumstances: P2P movements when you're receiving, including moving between PICs you own, buying via an online auction, and moving to and from an adjustment property. Your agent, again, is not legally responsible to scan and record these movements on the database. However, some stock agents may be happy to do this as part of their service, but they have no legal obligation. If they do, it's still your responsibility to ensure that that's being done. So just check. Now we've gone through how the state government is supporting producers through discounted eID tags. Now we're going to touch on how producers will be supported with eID equipment. So the Government of South Australia support package will help the supply chain transition through a 75% grant on essential infrastructure required for implementation of eID across the supply chain, including producers, agents, sale yards and abattoirs. eID equipment rebates for eligible producers are currently being worked through by government, including the eligibility criteria and rebate guidelines. So more information will be released on this in coming months. Sale yard and processors can already apply for their equipment and infrastructure rebates, with stock agents soon to follow. Moving on to harvested rangeland goats. Harvested rangeland goats will continue to access tag-free pathways from property of capture direct to processor or registered goat depot. This pathway is expected to come via the harvested rangeland goat accreditation and is currently being worked through by industry and government. Harvested rangeland goat movements are still recorded on the NLS database as a mob-based movement. GICA and some supporting organisations do have some producers meetings coming up that some may be interested in, one being Corn this coming month in July and the next one in Mount Pleasant. A few points now about the NLS database and its capacity. On July 1 of last year, Integrity Systems Company, a subsidiary of Meat and Livestock Australia, commenced a 3-year project to develop a new and improved traceability platform to replace the 23-year-old NLS database. The NLS Uplift project is funded by the Commonwealth Government to the sum of $22.5 million. The upgrade will allow the database to cope with an influx of eID tags that will be uploaded to the system when sheep and goat eID is implemented across the country. The uplift and improvements will improve functionality of the database, its usability and its tracing capabilities. In summing up, we have some key messages that we hope you can take away from this presentation. Starting with, for most producers, the change to eID is just the change in a type of tag. For most producers, that's as complex as the system will be for them. Most producers will not need additional eID infrastructure, equipment or tech. eID tags are automatically registered to the producer's PIC by the manufacturer, so you don't need to scan these tags on arrival or at marking time. Responsibilities regarding who needs to upload movements to the database will not change. It's just the change in the type of information that's being recorded. Remember, P2Ps are your responsibility and include buying sheep and farm goats privately with or without an agent, moving sheep and farm goats between different PICs that you own, buying sheep and farm goats via online trading platforms, and adjusting sheep and farm goats. And again, the agent's not legally responsible for doing this. However, they may do this on your behalf under agreement. There will be no additional tagging exemptions above those that already exist in the system, and only colours within the year of birth system are NLS accredited and will be uploaded to the database, so not colours like brown and grey. However, using them in the year of birth colour sequence is voluntary in South Australia. The NLS database will be able to cope with the sudden increase in tags coming online thanks to the Uplift project. And we do encourage all producers to set up an NLS database account. They're free and they're really easy to sign up. So please go to the website I've included here. And when you do, add sheep individual to your database account profile, and that will allow you to record sheep eID movements. Couple of coming information and events. First of all, we have Integrity Systems Company, or ICS, Sheep and Goat eID webinar, which is South Australian specific, coming up in July 25. And Geica again have those 2 goat sessions coming up in July and August at Quorn and Mount Pleasant. So keep an eye out on your social media and your emails for registration details of those. And I think that's me done. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Tara. Got some time for some questions. For our question and answer, the panel is also joined by Julie Wedderburn, who's the project coordinator for eID implementation, and Denise Rendell, who's the senior officer NILS, both with the Department of Primary Industries and Regions. I've just popped up on the screen there about if you would like some more information. You can subscribe to PIRSA's eID mailing list. There's the address there, and also Livestock SA Communications. You can jump on the PIRSA website for some more information. And then I've put the key contacts, so Tara and Denise, Pene at Livestock SA, and myself at AWI Extension South Australia. So, questions. Let me ask. First one to you, Tara. If people need help with the NLS database and its management, where can they get some assistance with that one?
In terms of how you carry out things
movements.
on
Yeah.
movements? Oh, yep, sure. Well, there you can contact MLA directly. They have an NLS helpline, which we can post the number for. There's also Denise and myself who are quite happy to often help people out if they're having issues with the database or just need some help in understanding how to carry out certain movements.
Yeah, and I must say, they also have IC, Integrity Systems Company, have some great videos. I know I've used those myself as a producer. So, yep, jump on and have a look at those. Yeah, great. Thanks, Tara. Sorry, another one for you, Tara. Will the eID system also be rolled out to alpacas?
That's a bit of a tricky one. We really just want to successfully roll this one out for sheep and farm goats initially, but that may well be may well be one of the options down the track. I think there has been some talk of it, but at the moment our focus is certainly those animals that we are trading export trade with. So initially the sheep and farm goats.
Thank you. One for you, Denise. This person has some tags left over and they haven't put them in sheep. Do they need to tell the database that they haven't been used? And if they've got some dead animals, do they even need to enter that into the database? So just...
Okay. And actually, can I just follow up a little bit on the alpaca one
yeah,
first?
Please do. Yeah.
There are actually eID tags available for alpacas, and there are some producers using them voluntarily. And they are already recorded on the NLS database, but it is purely voluntary. It is not being mandated in the alpaca industry. Okay. Now, in terms of tags that you've not used, you can use them at any other point, provided they're appropriate for the types of animals. So, if it's an animal that was born on your property, it's lost a tag, irrespective of its age, you can use a breeder tag that you may have left over from another year. It's only post-breeder tags that you will need to use on animals that weren't born on your property. So unused breeder tags you can use in future years. There is no requirement to record deaths on the NLS database. You may wish to do so if you do come across animals that have died and you've been able to recover that tag. just that way it just keeps things tidy on the NIS database, but there's no compulsion for you to do that.
Thank you. And if they haven't used tags, like they're just in the shed because they've got a couple left over, do they need to tell the database that?
No, they don't. Those tags will just sit there on the database. There's no need to notify the database that you've applied tags to animals or not applied tags to animals. So they just sit there registered to your property until they end up leaving your property.
Excellent. Denise, while I've got you, another question here. Person's quite a small scale producer, can they legally opt out so they continue as a sheep producer, or if they don't want to do eID, do they have to change their enterprise?
The legal obligations are for all producers with sheep or farmed goats. So to identify the animals, you must do that with an eID before those dates, or as per those dates that Tara outlined. However, you do not have to identify these animals until they are leaving the property. So that might be the point you identify the animals. The other thing is that you can still purchase small numbers of tags because traceability is important. You are still part of the supply chain, especially if you have animals processed anywhere or sell them on to other producers through sale yards, through any other media. So you are still part of the supply chain, and it is essential that you identify the animals as per the legislation.
Thanks, Denise. And if anyone has any questions about that, you can pop onto the Department of Primary Industries and Regions website, and there's plenty of information there about your responsibilities. One for you, Tara. Person asks, do they need to purchase a specific scanner device? I think you touched on only if...
in terms of wands, there
yes,
are a whole range of wands that are available through various manufacturers. So you don't have to have a specific brand. They range in their capabilities. Some can do all sorts of fancy things. Others can just do the basics of reading those tags, but you don't have to choose a specific brand. Your tags don't have to be the same brand as your scanner.
Thank you. Question, Tara, I might put this one to you. Will there be a new edition of the NVD released with this rollout of eID tags?
No, from my understanding, there won't be. No.
For sheep, there's no new NVD proposed. There will be new NVDs proposed for goats, though, because of the harvested rangeland goats.
Okay, another question, probably, Denise, while I've got you there. If they've got extra tags left over, do they have to make any adjustment to the NIS database for the year of birth?
No, they don't. They don't need to do anything about the tags on the database. So the year of birth of the animal is not a required field in the database. When the tags are uploaded, it just uploads the year that the tags were issued, or sorry, the date the tags were issued, and that's the date that is recorded on the NIS database. Excellent. And then the dates of any subsequent movements.
Thank you. A question here about property to property transfers. So will these transfers need a copy of the NVD uploaded, even if it's between the same owners of properties? There may be just a bit of background into P2P and when you need that information put up on the database.
Currently, for property to property movements, producers have 7 days from the arrival of the animals on the property to do the transfer, but this is being looked at as well. In terms of uploading a copy of the NVD, that is not required. However, some producers do opt to do that simply because they can get rid of their filing cabinets and keep the NVD electronically. So it will be recorded on the NIS database forever.
Excellent. Thank you. Question for you, Julie, about the rebates for tags from 2023. Yeah, if you could just give us an update on the implementation of the blue tag rebate.
Thank you. Thanks, Jodie. Yes, we had the eID device rebate 2023, which provided a rebate back to producers for sky blue tags purchased in 2023. That closed at the end of April, and the assessors have been juggling a number of different grants across the primary production and the primary industries. So we haven't been able to assess as quickly as we had originally thought was the case. So there is a little bit of a backlog. We apologise for the delays, but we should see some of those assessments ramping up. And once the assessment is completed, applicants will be advised of the outcome of their rebate assessment by email. They will receive a letter. And once that letter is received, assuming that they've been successful at securing the rebate, there's about a 10-day time frame for the payment then to be put into bank accounts. So we should be definitely ramping up the assessments and removing that backlog that we currently have. So applicants should see something arriving in their inbox over the next few weeks.
Thanks, Julie. Please get in touch with us if you have any other questions about the rebate with for blue tags. Please contact the grants team. Question for you, Tara. You used the word device. Why rather than tag? Can you just explain a bit of background about that one?
I might actually handle that one to Denise, actually, in terms of the background of the terminology. Denise, can you help us with that?
Okay. The reason why we use the word device is that in some instances, it's not just an ear tag. For goats, there is a specialist leg band or hock strap that is actually accredited for use. We do have dairy goats that have difficulty retaining ear tags, and we also actually do have a breed of earless goats. So that, of course, it's very difficult to put an ear tag in if they've got no ears. So in that case, we actually use the term device to cover both these leg bands and also the ear tags.
One more for you, Tara, and relating to when the point of sale discount is, someone said they're not tagging till later in September next year. Do they need to buy them before then? So do you want us to outline when the point of sale is available,
Yes.
discount is available?
Next, the 2025
Correct. Yeah.
discount is available from 1 Jan 2025 to the 30th of June. So that if they want to make use of the discount, then they need to purchase those tags before the end of June of next year.
Excellent.
So it's quite okay to buy the tags early in the year and then just have them on property waiting for marking time or whatever. And if that happens later in the year, then that's not an issue at all.
Thank you. Sorry, and Tara, while you're there, can you just give us a bit more about post-breeder tags and when you use a post-breeder tag, please?
A post-breeder tag is used to identify an animal that wasn't born on your property, but they've lost an ear tag whilst being on your property generally. So if you've bought in animals, for example, you bought in some animals that were identified with eID tags, and you notice that one of them has lost their tag, then before that animal moves off of your property again, you'll need to put in a post-breeder eID device into that animal's ear.
Thank you. One more for you, Tara. If I buy rams from an on-farm sale, can the seller scan the tag for me if I don't have a scanner?
If you're buying on an on-farm property ram sale, then the stock agent or the selling agent is responsible for scanning those tags. So neither the vendor nor the seller has to worry about scanning or uploading information in those circumstances. So any on-property public auction, like a ram sale, on-property clearing sale, etc., the selling agent will do the scanning and the uploading.
Thank you. Another one, and this relates to the rainbow colours for the tags. What does the default colour is yellow mean, please?
That means that if you don't have a specific colour that you want or you need to purchase, like you don't really mind one of the 8 colours, what colour, then the default colour or the fallback colour is yellow, which is one of those 8 colours.
Thank you. Question 1 here for you, Denise. If they've got cast for age ewes that will need a pink tag at end of life, if they've got cast for age ewes, will pink electronic tags be required?
It depends on their origin. So if the cast for age ewes were born on your property, you could use a breeder tag on them, and not necessarily in whichever year colour that you want to use. If they were purchased in ewes and you need to apply an eID, then yes, you will need to apply a pink post-breeder tag.
Excellent. And the dates needing for those sheep needing tags, Denise? Can we just...
The older sheep that are born before January 1, 2025, you will need to you can still use visual tags on them until January 1, 2027. So if they leave your property between now and January 1, 2027, they can go with the visual tags. But after January 1, 2027, they will be required to be identified with an electronic ID tag.
Thank you. One more there, Denise. If you buy a ram from someone who doesn't have a scanner, nor does the buyer, what can you do? So do you want to talk through about a manual uploading to the database?
Okay. Depending on how many animals are in the purchase, you can actually look at the ID tag and type in that particular NLS ID. So that's the ID that's printed on the outside of the tag, and you can actually upload that to the database. So you go onto your NLS account, you put that information in with your MVD number, the date that they moved, the pick that they've come from, and the pick and your pick, and that information will then go up to the database. So you can do it manually through that type of system. And as Jodie mentioned before, there is both a fact sheet or a tech tip on how to do this on the Integrity Systems company website, and also a video on how to do that, which we can send out details about as well.
Excellent. And while you're there, Denise, one more question. If you have sheep that will never leave your property, do you need eID tags?
If they are born on your property and never leave your property, you are not required to identify them. However, sheep and goats do stray, and in that situation, it is much easier if we've got animals that are identified to be able to get them back to whoever owns them or whoever they're registered to. So it does make life a lot easier in that situation, and also in situations that, heaven forbid, you don't want to go through, but bushfires and floods do mean that animals do leave their property unintentionally. So in those situations, it's always good to have animals identified so that they can be returned to the appropriate ownership.
Thank you. Tara, one for you. Where can people buy their tags from?
You can buy your tags direct from the manufacturer online or through your local rural reseller.
There's a few options there. Thank you. Another question here, Tara, for you. And the person's had issues with retention. And what would be the best? What's the next steps for them? Sorry, in terms of retention of eID tags.
Having retention issues, if you are having retention or readability issues, as I mentioned in the presentation, an NLS accredited tag does have to go through a strict 3-year accreditation process. However, if you are having ongoing issues that you think needs addressing or not up to standard, then you are to either contact the tag manufacturer themselves and address that with them, let them know, and the other option is to contact ISC or Integrity Systems Company and report your issue to them.
Thank you. Sorry, Denise, I just want to another question just about the tags. Are the old strip tags still going to be available post the rollout of eID tags?
The old strip tags will not be NLS accredited tags after January 1, 2027. So they can only be used until that point. They'll only be available to be purchased and used till that point. So so in that situation, as I said before, after January 1, 2027, everything will have to have an electronic ID on either a breeder tag or a post-breeder tag, depending on the source of the animal.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of the questions that we have. Thank you to everyone who joined us for today's webinar. Tonight's webinar has been recorded and will be available on the AWI Extension South Australia YouTube channel. I'd particularly like to thank Pene and Tara for sharing their insight and expertise. If you've got additional questions, you can contact us directly. So thank you and have a lovely evening.